Becoming is in the doing, not in the saying, not in you just thinking, but in the actual doing. This morning, I noticed that the confidence of it all comes from the intensity of actually doing the thing over and over again until the repetition of it, the effort towards putting in the work turns into proof that you are the thing that you are attempting to become. Because how can you say that you are something, believe that you are something, if you haven't done the something? I was walking this morning at 2 a.m. and I realized that feeling can only be described as motion. Today's theme is guardrails and what it takes to actually stay on track once you decide who you want to become. My name is TJ. Welcome to the channel. Hope you guys are doing well. I just want to preface this episode just a little bit because this is episode 3 of a series that I am calling The Identity Experiment. And what I am attempting to do, what I am doing and living out is every day I am trying to change my identity and seeing if it's possible. I've been doing some research and reading and just studying some things about changing your identity and becoming who you want to become. And I'm at a pivotal point in my life where I want to make those changes, but sometimes you kind of get settled in who you are and who you have become over a period of time. So I've been discovering and talking about and discussing what issues that I have and things that I want to change in my life, and if it's possible to actually change those things and what that process looks like. So on a day-to-day, this is a pretty extreme experiment if you think about it. I'm attempting to continue to talk to the camera every day until I become that thing. But it probably will continue after this if it becomes such a habit that I do it consistently every day. And so this morning, it was a great proof of that thing, that just the becoming of like the identity.
Good morning. It is 1:44. I actually woke up at 1:30, just because I want to sleep early. But I'm noticing that I woke up and I have to be headed on the road about like 5 a.m. this morning. So I noticed that in order for me to do some of the things I wanted to do today, I need to go ahead and get up. It was 1:45. I'm heading to that road to travel up. Preparing for the shoot so that I have enough time to actually film today's episode. Because if I don't do that before I leave today, I won't get done. I had basketball practice last night, so I'm also doing training for basketball, so I had to clean this stuff out on the truck. Okay, so I have this set up for video this morning, and I'm all good to go there. I got my Zoya set up for in the car, I'm ready to go for a shoot. It's currently 2:33, and I will go ahead and go for my walk now. So I've been walking about 3 miles every day, and the reason for that is just because I'm starting to realize that I need something like that to keep me going, something that's low stakes, a nice little walk. 3 miles is what I do, and then it clears my mind, helps me think about what I need to do, what I need to accomplish during the day, and it just allows me to like clear space.
Do that. One of the things that I talked about in the last episode is consistency, and that we tell ourselves that, we aren't consistent, or we aren't this, or we aren't that. And what does that, why do we tell ourselves those stories? And why did I tell myself those stories? Where did those stories come from? And so our last episode was talking about that. But this morning, we we had quite a morning. I have a shoot today. It is currently 3:43 a.m. And I need to be out of this house around 5:20 to be on time for the shoot. And I noticed that I needed to get this done. Last night was quite a night. I had basketball sessions last night for 2 hours, all the way up until about 8:30 last night. And came home and I completely was just exhausted from doing everything I had to do yesterday. I had to go to the car dealership. I had to get my oil changed. I had to get an inspection. There's other things that came up with my car that I had to get fixed. I had meetings yesterday. I had I had basically two interviews for mechanical engineering jobs. And those that was quite a day yesterday. And by the time I got home last night, I completely crashed. And I didn't want to do anything. Usually I would actually, set up for the shoot, pack everything up, but it was so late. I didn't really eat much, and I just needed to lay down. Now, what's interesting is that, in the last episode I talked about alcohol and how I use that to cope, to get myself and my mind to calm down and go to sleep. I'm gonna tell you right now, I did not need that last night. Didn't need that at all. Last night, I was completely exhausted. And maybe that is part of the remedy, making sure that I put myself and I put the effort out each and every day, that when it comes time to lay my head down, there is no energy left. I need to rest. I need to do the thing. And I don't want to be completely spent every day, of course, but I'm noticing that if I'm doing the things that I need to be doing, that there is no time for anything else. There is no time for rest. There is no time for, lollygagging or sitting around doing nothing. There's a lot that needs to get done, and doing those things and making sure that I'm, staying consistent at doing those things daily will lead me to laying my head down at night. I should be completely exhausted because I have so much that I need to do. And so we talked about this morning, just talked about becoming who you want to be. I think all the time is strictly about the proof that you have given yourself to believe that you are that thing. And I like to use basketball analogies quite often. But if you think about some of the great basketball players, the reason why they are who they are is because they have proof that they are that thing, because they put the work in to become that thing over and over again, consistently doing the thing in repetition, dribbling, shooting, working on different moves over and over and over again not until they become good at it. And they do it until they can't, make a mistake. They can't get it wrong because they did it so many times the right way. And not even to that extent. I remember when I was training Carter with basketball in basketball, and my goal a lot of times was to get him to understand the nuances between being a good basketball player and being a great basketball player. Good basketball players, they shoot 100 shots. Oh yeah, I shot 100 shots today. Well, the difference between a good basketball and a great basketball player is shooting 100 shots is not enough. Just shooting the shot is good, but you need to make the shot, right? And there's a difference between shooting 100 shots and making 100 shots. It may take you 300 shots to make 100 shots. If you're just shooting 100 shots and some of those shots are misses, did you achieve the goal? Is the goal to miss 100 shots? No, the goal is to make 100 shots. And even further than that, I remember we used to do drills where I had to make he had to make certain shots, but he also couldn't hit the rim. It didn't count unless it was nothing but net. And how many times do you have to shoot in order to have the standard or meet the standard of, okay, I'm not just shooting to make it, I'm shooting to not even hit the rim. And that level of intensity is where you get the confidence to shoot in those moments where, you know, you need the shot, or those moments where your team is counting on you and you have to drain the shot or the free throw. And so that is the becoming, that is proof of you are the thing. And so we talked about stories, the stories that we tell ourselves in the last episode. And we talked about the different rings, like, you know, the outer ring being the experience that you have, the words that you tell yourself, and the things that people tell you about yourself, right? That's the outer ring. And then one of the inner rings, and the next ring would be the stories that we tell ourselves from those experiences. And then in the inner part of that is the identity, right? And the thing that you believe that you are now. So this morning, going through all that I did today, just understanding like, hey, if I'm going to make this video, I have to get up now. I think I woke up at like 1:30, and I was like, okay, if I want to post a video today before I leave, because the day is going to be gone. If I leave, I'm traveling an hour and a half, I'm doing a shoot all day, then I'm traveling back. I won't be able to post a video unless I actually start getting ready right now. Ready right now. But if I did not do that, then if I didn't do the things that I did this morning, then I wouldn't be able to post today. And so understanding that the goal is to continue to do this, and what does it take to continue to do it? And I need to find myself doing those things more consistently and doing those things without fail, right? So whatever it takes to get it done is the standard and what I need to bring myself to. But in doing that, in doing what I did this morning, the waking up at 2 a.m., the going on the walk, the loading the car, the setting up this to actually film, and then the editing and getting ready to go before 5 a.m. In doing that, that is the experience that I'm having. And from that, I'm able to tell myself the story of, hey, you are really dedicated to doing this. You are becoming somebody who is consistent and has the identity of being consistent, because I'm telling myself that story. So you can see how those experiences of doing the thing actually leads to you telling yourself the story and believing the story, because you actually have proof that you have done it. And then that becomes your identity and what you identify as. So I made a couple of notes on my walk, and that was why I need to do the walk. The walk is important because I've identified that as something that I can use to help clear my mind. It's a low stakes, almost low effort thing. I listen to music, but I listen to music that allows me to think and to have have the ability to clear my mind and go through that thought process that is needed. Actually, during the walk, I was writing this episode and coming up with what I needed to talk about. And those things came to me while I was walking, while I was clearing my mind. And so if you don't put those things, for me, if I don't put those things into my life or into my schedule, then how can I expect to come up with those ideas? How can I expect to have the creativity that I need to have the space to have the thought processes that need to happen in order for me to write and do these episodes? So I had to do it almost in that order. I had to go on the walk in order to do this. I couldn't just sit down and talk about this, because I hadn't had time to talk to myself and think about what I needed to talk about. And so a couple of bullet points that I put down is that the becoming is in the doing. And these are just like my notes. So if you have anything that you would like to discuss or want to talk about, please leave those things in the comments below, because this is definitely an open discussion. But I want you to feel like this is beneficial to you as well. So I'm sharing some of the notes that I've taken for myself this morning in discovering and planning to become these things that I want to become. And so a couple of the notes that I have here is that identity isn't claimed, it's built through relentless repetition. And you can't just say that I'm the thing. Like it's I think I want to keep this from being this like foo-foo like thought process of like, oh yeah, if you just believe it, then you'll be it. And it's not fully that, right? It's actually, you doing the thing in a certain capacity that allows you to believe that you are those things. I can say that I'm consistent if I do things consistently. And so another note here is that the confidence and intensity people see is a byproduct of doing, not just a prerequisite for it. And I talk about this in basketball where, kids, they oh yeah, I want to shoot a three and I want to do this. And I was like, and I try to explain to them, like, there's an intensity that is involved in shooting. Like, you say that you're a shooter, but do you actually shoot? Like, are you actually shooting 100 shots a day? Are you actually, making 100 shots a day? Are you shooting to only hit the net and nothing else? There's an intensity, there's a level to it that you need to have. And I think that's why this experiment is important, because there is an intensity to this experiment for me that requires me to become something in order for it to be done. It's very easy to say, oh yeah, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I'm gonna make a video once a month, or, whenever I feel like doing it, I'm going to do it. There's a difference between saying I'm going to wake up and I'm going to film a video every morning and I'm going to post a video every day. And I remember doing this, and when we were doing a lot of the Daily Davison stuff, it was literally the Daily Davisons. I would go to work, we would film, I'd go to work, and I would come home, we'd cook dinner, and then I would stay up and edit until it was done. Then I would go to sleep, and I'd wake up and do it all over again. And I would also go to the gym in the morning. And so the level of intensity in doing that yields the results. And one of the next notes that I have is you can't believe or say you are something unless you haven't backed it up with action. And I think there's a lack of that in my life personally. I say and speak this to the kids that I work with. I say and speak it to my own kids. But do I experience it and do I live it? There are things that I do live and I do experience. One of the biggest things that I've been dealing with recently is talking about the distinction between someone who is actually a filmmaker or someone who's actually out here doing the work of filming and producing videos for clients, and people who are YouTubers who talk about cameras, who talk about photography. There's a distinct nuance between those two. There's people who love the specs and talk about the specs and the camera is great and the camera is this, but that is the extent of what they do. They don't actually go and film for a client. They don't do it. They just talk about, oh, how great the camera is, right? But is that camera necessary to actually film and produce films for a client? No. If you were actually doing the work, you would understand that. But there's a distinct nuance between the two. And I think there's a sense of confidence that you have if you actually do the work versus you just talk about the thing. And you can honestly see it in some of the like it comes through like the screen. You can feel whether it's real. If I did not actually go out and do the walking this morning, I couldn't sit here and talk to you with full confidence about what I'm doing and who I'm becoming. And hopefully I continue to do this, right? And I think I can. But this is important to stay real and understand what the difference is, the standard is for what I'm saying I want to be and what I'm actually doing. And then one more note with that is that the backing generates a specific feeling, and I describe that feeling as motion and not confidence. I think confidence is one of those things that you get from experiencing the act, and you do the thing over and over again. But you can see a lot of confidence in people sometimes that is not warranted. And so I want to make the distinction between the feeling of confidence and the action that is required in order to have confidence, right? And so the action that is required in order to have confidence, I'm describing that as motion, because it feels like something is carrying you towards that direction. It feels like you are moving in the right direction, and that will lead to confidence, right? And so continuing that motion and continuing that movement, it's literally the opposite of depression. Depression is sitting still and doing nothing, right? It's the nothingness. The motion is the doing the thing and saying, hey, I'm going to do it until I yield the result of confidence, right? Love is not a, it is a verb. Like love is a verb, right? The action of loving someone is what results in the feeling of love. But the action is, hey, do you need me to help you? Do you need me to sit down and talk to you? I'm willing to listen to what you have to say. I'm willing to massage your back. I'm willing to serve you, right? Those are acts of love that yield the feeling of love. Love is an action, and I think there should be a word to describe the action of loving someone and performing loving acts that yields to the feeling of love. And I think the confidence is the same way. Motion is the action of doing things that yield the result of confidence. And so the things that I did this morning to do this is just that. And that's how I would describe what that feels like. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about is the growing disinterest that I have for things that are not aligned with what I'm doing. As I'm doing this, and as I'm like focusing in and trying to become this thing and shift my identity, I have a growing disinterest, and I can feel it like every day. Like it's only been 3 days, but every day I'm getting more and more disinterested in things that are not aligned with what I am doing and what I am attempting to do. And so having just this idea of like, I know what I want and what I want to be, and that is not it. And so I'm going to stay clear of that. That is something, that's a feeling that I want to instill in my kids, and I want to find ways to do that. But this feeling is starting to be kind of like grow in me. And I wanted to talk about that for a little bit, because I think the more you identify and understand who you are, the more you identify and understand what you are not. And the things that don't align with that will slowly just move to the wayside, right? And you'll have this feeling of this growing disinterest towards that thing. And so, yeah, I'm noticing some of the notes that I have here, that I'm noticing the more consistent you are, the less interested you are, the less interested you become in things that are misaligned with the identity. So I'll say that again. I'm noticing that the more consistent you are, the less interested you become in things misaligned with the identity. And that, I mean, that's these are things, and these are things that are like come to me as I'm walking and I'm thinking about like what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing. But that is like a great like just description of what I'm feeling, and how I can see myself moving towards that identity. This is only day 3, but talking about this and discussing it is what is helping me kind of progress in that way. Another note from that is this is a signal, not a problem, and it means the guardrails are working. And I want to talk about the guardrails. I want to talk about the guardrails in a second. But the guardrails are the things that are placed, for and laid in a line for you to stay on track. And what are those things? What are those guardrails that I need to place in my life to keep me on track, right? And another note that I wrote was that talk through what started failing away naturally. Talk through what it has started to fall away naturally. So what are some of the things that are starting to fall away? I was literally laying down last night, and there were text messages coming to my phone about things that I was completely disinterested in, from people who I love, their friends, but the topics that they were talking about, I didn't want to engage in that conversation. I wanted to stay away from that conversation. And so I was completely disinterested in what they were talking about. Yeah, I'm in that group, but that has nothing to do with what like I am currently attempting to do, and it doesn't align with who I'm attempting to be. I have no interest in having this discussion or talking to you about it. And so let's talk about the guardrails for a second. So I'm calling these the guardrails because when I was thinking about it, I was describing, like I was in my head, I was thinking about like bowling. And, my dad was a huge bowler. He loved bowling. And I can remember a time where I didn't end my workout. Let me end the workout. All right. I did 3.3 miles today. So my dad was a huge bowler. I remember he introduced me to bowling when I was very young. He used to take me and my sister to the bowling alley downtown Newport News. I remember that, and we used to go in there and bowl and stuff. I remember I used to see him bowl. That my dad was pretty good, and he bowled a straight ball, and so all I seen, when I was younger, is people bowling straight balls. Maybe I just didn't notice it or didn't look left and right, but I just, focused on seeing straight balls. And like that's a little crazy. But I remember we went on a trip to Alabama one year, and we went to this bowling alley in Alabama, and all the family was out there and stuff, and we were bowling, and for some reason we were in there for hours. I remember being there just for a long time, like playing a lot of games of bowling. I feel like I almost had a lane to myself at one point. And I think we were just bowling all night, to be honest with you. And huge bowling alley down there in Alabama. And I was, looking left and right and other people bowling. I was seeing how good people were. I was like, dang, that guy's good. But I remember that was the first time I saw a ball curve, like someone bowl a curve and it like barely touched the gutter and it kind of rolled and then strike, right? And I was just fascinated by that. And I remember that day I decided that I'm not going to leave this bowling alley until I learn how to do what they just did. Now, no one told me how to do this, but I just looked at the guy and I saw how he had his hands and I was like, okay, let me put my hands like that. And then I'm going to like, turn it and I'm see what happens. And so I actually learned by putting my fingers in, but I didn't use the thumb hole because I thought that's what everyone else was doing. I mean, I don't think they were doing that, but that's how I learned how to do it. So I had the ball kind of inverted, only used the two finger holes, but I didn't use the thumb hole. And so I just started working on it. And so I got better at it. And when I left that day, I was actually doing really well at, bowling a curve. And, but when I thought about the guardrails, I thought about bowling, and it reminded me of that childhood experience of how, I learned to bowl. But it reminded me that there's guardrails on the bowling alley, right? If you're not good at bowling, you put the guardrails up to keep you from going in the gutter, and it ensures that you hit a pin, right? It ensures that you hit something, that you bowl, you roll it down, but you have the guardrails up to keep your ball on the lane and not in the gutter. If you go in the gutter, you won't hit any pins at all. But with the guardrails up, you will hit a pin. You might hit a lot of them. You might hit one. You might hit three. But you're going to hit a pin. Very rarely can you find the little sliver of space to miss the pins when the guardrails are up, right? I've never seen it happen. But yeah, the guardrails being up in bowling is there. They are there to ensure that you hit a pin, that you don't go into the gutter. And for me in my life, and for most of us, and I think for all of us, we need to have guardrails in place in order for us to ensure that we hit a pin, or we achieve the goal that we want to have. And so guardrails are, and just some of the notes that I put, I'm thinking about, like, guardrails are the structures that you keep in place to keep you on track when motivation runs out. So when I lack motivation, what are the guardrails that I need to put in place to keep me in this motion? Here's the question. What am I actually building into my schedule versus what I'm just hoping that I will do? Am I just hoping that I will film videos every day, or am I going to actually build a schedule and put in guardrails to ensure that those things happen on a daily basis, or those things happen on a weekly basis, for me to actually to do those things without fail, right? Some examples that I have for this is consistently posting. This needs to be a scheduling block, right? It needs to be scheduled or put within my schedule, and not just whenever I feel like it, but scheduled, guardrailed, put into that schedule in order for me to say that I am consistently doing it. In order for that to be part of my identity, I have to put it within my schedule. A better relationship with money. Scheduling time to actually look at my account. I told you in the last video, if you saw the last video, I talked about actually putting things in my schedule to make sure that I do the thing. But money was one of the things that I have a bad relationship with, right? But I have to put those things within my schedule in order to say that I'm getting better at, operating and working with money. I have to put money task within my schedule and not just do those things when I feel like it. Growth in my business is another big thing. I want to have growth in my business. So I need to have time blocks specifically for it, not just squeezed in whenever. It needs to be within my schedule, locked in, and done without fail. Consistency with my wife, right? Intentionally putting time built in, not left to chance, right? How can I ensure that relationship stays flowering, stays producing? Am I going out on dates? Am I taking her out on dates? Am I spending time with her? Are those things built into my schedule so that I ensure that I do those things? I can say that they have not been. Last week, or was that this week? I think that was earlier this week. I just was like, hey, look, I'm going to pick you up. I know you're going to be at practice. I'm going to pick you up. We're going to go to lunch. Finding time to do that weekly is a top priority for me. So I need to build that within my schedule. If I want those things to happen, I need to build those things within my schedule. So what are the things that you need to build within your schedule that are guardrails that will keep you on track? What are those things? And so here's the open question. And I want to make sure that, like I said, this is beneficial to those who are watching so that you can learn from some of the mistakes that I've made, and learn from my experience in this experiment, right? And so, do I actually need external motivation or someone to prove wrong to keep going? In my last video, I talked about the need for someone to say something to me and then I have to prove them wrong. And my teacher did it when I was young, and the different experiences that I had throughout my life where I can remember that someone told me something and I used that as fuel or motivation to prove them wrong. And that was why I did the thing. So the question I have for myself is, do I actually need those things as motivation? Do I actually need external motivation, or is that the story that I've told myself? And what can I do to keep myself going outside of that? And I think that the guardrails will be that thing to help me stay on track and have the opportunity to keep doing those things consistently, have the motion that fuels the confidence, and that I am that thing. That's what I do. And I tell the story of not just that. I don't tell the story. I tell myself the story, and I believe that I am not just a person who needs external motivation, but I'm a person who has guardrails in place that make me a high level performer, right? A high level person who is consistent and does these things on a consistent basis. So the question is, was that ever necessary, or was it only necessary because I had no guardrails set up? And so I want to leave that open to you, and I want to invite y'all to talk about that in the comments below. Maybe there's something that some guardrails that you need to put up. So type that down below. Like, what are some guardrails that you need to put in place to ensure that you're doing the right thing and doing the right thing consistently? So I want you to sit with that question. And the question is, was the chip on my shoulder ever really fuel, or was it just filling a gap where the structures should have been? And yeah, I think I'll end with that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this helped. This was actually this felt pretty good for me. So I think I'm ready for today. Let me get the editing, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.